While we're constantly inundated with grim headlines surrounding the coronavirus, many of us can still be caught off guard when a loved one gets infected. So what's the best course of action you should take when someone in your close circle tests positive? MSNBC senior national correspondent Chris Jansing joins us now. So, Chris, we're talking with you because you've had 3 family members who've been hospitalized with the virus. Tell us more about your experience.
Well, first of all, I should say that I'm the youngest of 12 children, and all of my siblings, my older siblings, are over 65, so they're at higher risk. And this is my personal story, but I'm painfully aware of the fact that as we sit here, Joe, there are 130,000 almost other families on any given day who are going through the same thing. My first experience was back in late July when my Aunt Margie in Florida died of COVID in a hospital there, and I said goodbye on FaceTime. Last month, my brother Jim, who is special needs, was hospitalized for 6 days. Fortunately, he recovered, but he does not like to be alone, and isolation for these patients remains one of the horrors, absolute horrors of this disease. And finally, my sister Janice, who the day after Christmas was rushed to the hospital, she coded. They brought her back, put her on a ventilator, where she remained for many, many days. 4 times they tried to wean her off the ventilator. Finally, when they were able to get her to breathe on her own, the first thing the doctor told us that she said was, "I've been to hell and back." And so I guess our story, my family's story, has been repeated literally millions of times. And it is mind-boggling to me, Joe, that there are still people out there who deny that this is happening, who refuse to wear a mask, who refuse to socially distance. My message is pretty simple. Wear a mask, socially distance. This can happen to you. And trust me, you don't want it to.
Chris, I know this isn't easy, so we appreciate you sharing your experience because people are going to hear your story, and hopefully it will change at least some people's behavior. I know I had a mild case. You don't just worry about your health, you worry about all the people you've exposed and the family and what's going to happen to them. And as much as we've been talking about this for the last year, the moment it happens, we realize still how unprepared we usually are. Your family is in an area where hospital resources are stretched thin. So how did you navigate that issue to make sure that your loved ones could get the treatment they needed?
Yeah, so let's be clear. There is not a place in America that has not found itself with hospital resources pretty much stretched thin. And in my case, one of the things that happened as I was visiting, my sister was moved from the hospital to a nursing home to get physical therapy. She is still too weak to sit up on her own, still too weak to stand on her own after what I think has been now 18 days. And I asked one of the nurses how she's doing, and she said, "Oh, I'm fine, I'm fine." And then she stopped and she looked at me, and it was not in a complaining way. She simply said, "I go home every night and I collapse." And I thought, how is it that 10 months into this, we're still in this position where we have these heroic doctors, nurses, everybody who works on the front lines, who, first of all, are worried about exposing their own families, who have to wonder about how they're going to go to work the next day and do what they have to do. So, you know, we can't thank them enough. But I went to Vin Gupta, who you all know and who's been a great resource to all of us. And I said, what would you say to families who are going through this? What can they do? And he said, first of all, don't feel guilty about wanting information. I mean, I think our family felt like, should we be bothering the doctors and nurses? They're so busy. And he said, you need to take a role in their care. It's helpful to the doctors, and that's their job. The second thing is to clearly communicate the goals of care. For example, because my sister's so weak, Dr. Gupta said to me, do you know how many calories a day she's supposed to be getting? And are they meeting that goal? That's something you should be asking them. And as aware as I am, and I've been talking about this every day since the beginning of the pandemic, you don't know everything. And it's good to reach out and try to get information about what your particular family member may need. And finally, and this is a really hard part, have you had conversations with members of your family, even apart from coronavirus, about what their desires would be? My sister's a fighter. They did not ask us about putting her on a ventilator. It's something they did after she coded, but it's also something that she would have wanted. But Do you know what your family members want? And they don't have to be 82 years old. So, the fact of the matter is all of us could find ourselves in a situation of a hospitalization. And so these are the conversations that I think this particularly horrible experience for all of us in America have brought to the fore. Know what members of your family want, should they, and we hope they're not, but should they be in this awful situation, guys?
Chris, that's such helpful advice. I know it's deeply personal for you and not easy to share, but we appreciate you sharing, and we are thinking of you and your family as we go through this. And I seriously hope people are listening to you and it changes some people's behavior out there, because there are people who are doing all the right things who are still getting sick because of the people who aren't doing the right things.
That's right.
We got to keep that.
Wear a mask. For God's sake, wear a mask.
Yes. Chris, thank you so much.
Thanks, Chris. We love you.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.